Good morning, everyone. To those listening live, welcome. And to those catching the recording, welcome to another episode of the Jewish Physicians Network podcast, where we discuss topics on the crossroads of halacha, Jewish medical ethics, and medicine. My name is Mendel Jacobs. I'm incredibly honored to introduce today's speaker, Rabbi Sprung. Rabbi Sprung serves as the Rov of Shareeh Zedek Medical Center, Yerushalayim, and is the founder and Rosh Medrash of the Beis Medrash for Medical Halacha. Beyond the pulpit, Rabbi Sprung has also been a longtime mentor and rabbinic advisor for the Jewish Physicians Network. And without any further delay or ado, Rabbi Sprung.
Thank you very much. So I'm happy to start this series for medical professionals in Chodesh Tishrei, and I'm very, very happy. And Be'ezus Hashem, and we're not only happy, I'm very excited to start this, and this is going to be interesting and fascinating. So today, Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to cover the topics of Selichos, and we're going to talk about Slichos, Erev Rosh Hashanah, davening on Rosh Hashanah itself, Musaf, and in the end, we are going to talk about choosing if one wants to prioritize his shifts during the month of Tishrei. We're going to talk about that. It's going to be very interesting. So today, let's talk about Slichos. We're talking about the Minhag Yisrael is that Bnei Edot HaMizrach start from Chodesh Elul, and the Ashkenazim start from the week before Rosh Hashanah. So this year it's going to be a full week before Rosh Hashanah. Motzei Shabbos, we're going to start. So whoever has time to go and say Slichas B'minyan, normally that's for sure the best and prefer, and that you don't need me here to tell you that. Where we come to talk about is someone that says Slichos B'yachid. He's saying it on his own. He's saying Slichos. He doesn't have a minyan. So very important to know. The Shulchan Aruch says, "Ein hayachid rashai loymar shloishes remidos derech tfilo bakoshas rachamim." So you're not allowed to say Yud Gimel midos shel rachamim. So from Kel, whatever you start to say, Hashem, Hashem, and all around it, you're not allowed to say. Why? Because it's a davar shebekdusha. Since it's a davar shebekdusha, and everyone knows that you can't say Kaddish or Kedusha b'yechidus. So the same way, you cannot say also Yud Gimel Midas Shirachamim. Aval im bale omrom derech kriya be'alme omrom, but it says the Shulchan Aruch, if one wants to say it in a way of derech kriya, meaning to read it, then he could say it. And the Ramah adds that to say Slichos and Vayavor Hashem al panav. That's the way he adds. And all the Achronim ask on the Divrei Ramah, what do you mean by saying not to say Slichos? One should not say Slichos. Al halacha, we paskin that the Ramah did not mean to say in the name of the Mariel or Zerua, they did not mean to say Slichos in totally. Of course, one could say Slichos, but he could say Slicho when he said what he means to say is the Slichos of regarding Yud Gimel Midos and Vayavar Hashem al panav, all of that. One should not say it. So how could he say it? So the Shulchan Aruch said to say it derech kriya be'alma. Lichatchila, one that knows to read with trup should say it with a trup as if he's Kayer Batayra, because when he's doing it in such a way, so he doesn't have the problem of saying Davar Shebekdusha, because he's doing it derech limud, and derech limud is mutter. B'di'eved, it's not, it's even less than b'di'eved. It's not me'akev to say it with trup, just to say it in a way of learning, because it's nikar. That's the way the Achronim paskin, and that's the best way of doing it. So that is the halacha regarding slichos. Says the Mishnah Brura that one should not say on this halacha, one should not say koidem chatzois alayla slichos and not Yud Gimel Midos. Besides Yom Kippur, on Yom Kippur night we say slichos, and we say also. Right, we say also Yud Gimel Midos. That is the only night that it's a special Eis Ratzain of Yom Kippur, and we say it. But on a regular night, a person should not say. So that it brings us to a question: when should a person say Slichos? This question was asked. Rav Moshe Feinstein was asked in Orach Chaim Chelik Beis Siman Kuf Hey. Rav Moshe was asked the question what to do regarding early minyanim of slicha, certain communities, they have a hard time of getting a minyan on Motzei Shabbos late, and or in the morning early. They have a hard time getting a minyan for slichos. And Rav Moshe was asked, and the question that Rav Moshe is discussing, Rav Moshe is saying that there is what's called the slichos. Is we say slichos in Rosh Hashanah in order to be ma'ora the rotzen of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to forgive us for our averis. And the time that we say it is the Eis Rotzain of Aseres Yemei Tshuva, and the week before Rosh Hashanah, that's the Eis Rotzain. So you have a few times that are good. The times where Dirsha Hashem B'Yimotza Kiru B'Yoyse Koloy, meaning we call HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he's close. HaKadosh Baruch Hu now went down to hear from us, to be close to us. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to hear us, but we want to capture the best times of doing it. So the minig is doing it after Chatzos, because that's the shlish of the night, right? Not the shlish, the time of the night, that is, we know that it's an Eis Rotzeh, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens. So be'etzem, that would be, Rav Moshe is not makel easily to say not to do it on the time of the night of before Chatzos, but Lemaiser Rav Moshe says, if you don't do it in a way of kvius, meaning you don't establish every year such a thing, just if you have no choice, says Rav Moshe, that you could be makel and do it in the times before that. That's the way Rav Moshe says that. By the way, when I was looking into this halacha, I came up with an idea, with a question that I thought will be an nafkamina for a lot of doctor residents, and especially residents that have long shifts, or doctors that work night shift. And I never had a chance to talk about it in shir, but maybe this is a good idea to bring. Rav Moshe Sternbrook was asked a question on somebody that wakes up early to learn, and Muda Shachar came. Is he supposed to stop and wash his hand 3 times as we're knowing to do every morning? Why? Because we know that the ruach ra that we have in our hands is either because we sleep, or bichlal, the time of Amud HaShachar that comes, that is the time that you have to wash your hands for the removing that. So somebody that is up the whole night, so does he have to wash his hands when it comes to Amud HaShachar? So in your middle of shift, okay, the first opportunity that you have after Amud HaShachar, maybe that's the right time to do it. Why am I saying this? Because the Chuvas Vanogas writes, he says like this, regarding the question that he asked, I'll mention again, he asked the question, does a person have to, that is learning during Amud HaShachar, does he have to wash his hands? So he brings a raya from the people that wake up for slichos, that they start the slichos before Amud HaShachar, and he says, we never heard and we never saw people walking out in the middle of slichos once Amud HaShachar comes and they go and they wash their hands. Nobody does that. Why? So what? Does it mean that we argue on the opinion that says that Amud HaShachar is the goyrem for Netilas Yadayim? So he says no. Obviously, that's not the reason. So he wants to say that he wants to bring a raya from the Avodah in the Mikdash, that once you don't change me'avodah le'avodah, you don't wash your hands. Meaning, once you don't go from one avodah in the Beis Hamikdash to another avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, you don't have to. But that's already to answer his thing. But interesting enough, just to explain that you see here that probably the right thing to do is to wash your hands once, since there is a machlokes. So the right thing to do is to wash your hand when the time comes of Alois Ashachar. So when someone is, since there is a machlokes for Netilas Yadayim, if the just washing your hands because of the sleeping is the goyrem, or the Alois Ashachar is the reason that we have to wash our hands. So therefore, the recommendation is to wash your hands once Amud HaShachar. The problem is that once you're in a shift, you lose concept of time, and you don't know when Alois HaShachar is and when. So that's a different problem. But just to have the awareness that, or put yourself a reminder to wash your hands 3 times in a certain point. Now we'll go and to Erev Rosh Hashanah. Hatarat Nedarim. The minig is to do Hatarat Nedarim on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Why do we do the Gemara Nedarim Daf Chav Gimel? The Gemara says a person that doesn't want to have a problem with Nedarim, so he should stand in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says that's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara says to do it around Rosh Hashanah. The Shla comes and brings the minhag that we do today, and the Shla says there in Amud Tshuva, he says, "Avazrizi magdimin lemitzvah v'roi lagdim koidem Rosh Hashanah mamish lasa shnei inyonim haTorah le'ova u'mesiras moedah levaten nedarim lehaba." So the Shla wants to say that maybe the truth is that we could do it on Yom Kippur, but he says that since we want to start our year, zrizi magdimin lemitzvah, so when we want to start our year clean, so therefore, we don't have to have any problems on our back of different nedarim that a person makes, and therefore we annul everything from the beginning, and we don't rely on kol nidrei that we do on Leil Yom Kippur. So that is the minig of Hatarat Nedarim. Hatarat Nedarim, one could do it right after Slichis, or there is other people that do it right after Shachris. There is minagim to do it with Talis V'Tfilin, etc. But one Erev Rosh Hashanah did not do Hatarat Nedarim, didn't have the time to do Hatarat Nedarim. Any other time until Yom Kippur is also the right time to do it, also at night. B'shas Chak, you could have a few people say the Nusach together in front of a Beis Din. But as I'm saying, you have to have 3 people and you have to say it. So if you didn't get a chance to do it, once you have 3 people in front of you, you do it. Shabbos is not the time to do Hatarat Nedarim. So besides Shabbos, you don't do Hatarat Nedarim, but you could do it at night. You could do it with 3 people. They shouldn't be kroivim, etc. Today there's a minig that women, that husbands do it for women, but that's a new minig. Once upon a time was unheard of such a minig. Now I'm jumping to Rosh Hashanah. The next topic that we're going to talk about is Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, you could have a person that a doctor that is working, a nurse that is working on Rosh Hashanah. So if they have the time to daven, so they'll daven beyechidus. So I want to talk about a halacha that is less known, but is a halacha that is broad. And this halacha starts already from the Gemara. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, the Gemara tells us the following. Lo yispal adam tfilas musaf b'yom arishon shel Rosh Hashanah, in the first 3 hours of the day. The Gemara says, how come one should not daven musaf on the first 3 hours of the day? So the Gemara says, right, so if in Eretz Yisrael, we're talking about, let's say, the Nates will be Rosh Hashanah around 6:20, something like that. So until 9:20, don't daven musaf. Why? So the Gemara says, because these are the hours that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Yoshev Bedin, and therefore your davening is going to come in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you're going to describe in Musaf all the great things that what happens during the din, and who miichya miyomus, and everything malchi is a shayfris, and you're going to daven all these davenings. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be me'ayin in your din, and he'll see that you're davening b'yechidus. So you'll see that you don't have this protection of tzibur. As the Gemara, if this is your concern, the Gemara asks, how come we're davening shachris? I'm sorry. The Gemara, first of all, the Gemara says, so how come tzibur? The Gemara is asking the same question. So how come the tzibur could daven musaf before shalishais? So the Gemara says, tzibur have a lot of schuyos, meaning the protection is the tzibur is protected because they're tzibur. So then the Gemara asked, okay, so if not tzibur, so why dafka musaf? What's with shachris? Shachris also, if someone is davening Shachris b'yechidus, so he shouldn't daven because he's ba'orer the din. So then the Gemara answers that since in the first 3 hours all of Klal Yisrael are davening, that's the time where people are davening. That's a normal hour when people are davening, and therefore everybody is davening in that time. So therefore, even though I'm davening Shachris b'yechidus, I am mitztaref to part of the klal. But Musaf, that's not yet the time people daven Musaf later on. And that's the concept. And the Rishonim explained that the concern is, as I said before, that every day HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits bedin in the first 3 hours, but Rosh Hashanah is Yom Adin, and therefore, once you're masker, Balchi is a kind of shofars, as I said before, and we masker all these things that we're trying to be ma'orer, akedas yitzchak, and all of our schuyas, and that is you're be'etzem sticking out that you're doing it in a way b'yechidus. The Mishnah Berurah says in Siben Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph, says the Mishnah Berurah, Lo yishor shoyis rishana kadosh baruch hu danes eiloma v'shem yayinu bedinoi b'yichud u'mi yitzdak, who will be able to overcome that? Avak shu mispale b'tzibur hen kel kabir lo yimas tfilas rabbi. Then he asks, what's the difference in every day and Rosh Hashanah? So then he says, because Rosh Hashanah is a special day of Yom Adin, and therefore we're more concerned about that. Okay, so therefore, people that are davening Shachris in the nights, so they'll daven also Musaf early. So there's, as we said, they don't have a problem davening Musaf early because they have the protection, as the Gemara said, of the tzibur. Now, the question is like this. Question comes when I have someone, when we have someone that is in a shift in these hours, and he has two things in front of him. Either he davens Musaf before Shalosh Shoyes B'Yechidus, or he waits with Musaf till after the 7th hour. What's the question? Because we know that the halach is that Musaf you have to daven up to 7 hours. If you didn't daven till 7 hours, you could daven, but it's a din lechatchila that you have to daven. And on the other side, there's this inyan that we just said, not to daven before 3 hours. So what should we choose? So I asked this question in front of Meir Rabbi Agon Rav Asher Weiss, and he said the following. So he said that what we have to do is that to daven early. And the way he used the lashon, he said that the davening ad shalosh shoyis is a din lechatchila, and the din of davening of 7 until sheva shoyis is mi'ikar adin. And therefore, he said, if that's mi'ikar adin, so better to daven before the 3 hours than davening musaf late. That's the way he said. I once heard from a Talmid Chacham that said that the schus of a doctor that is oisik b'mitzvah during a shift will stand for him. That's the lashon that he used, and he should daven before shalosh shoyis. B'maimer Amusgar, I want to mention, and this is nogea to every day, and what I want to say is the following. What happens if you have another friend with you that is in the same shift, and both of you know that you don't have a minyan? There's an inyan to daven 2 people together or not. So one of my schuyas that I have is that I was b'shamish Rav Asher Weiss for Baruch Hashem the last 20 years, and I was with him in a lot of places in the world, and happened more than once that we were on the way when there were minyanim that we couldn't daven in a minyan. We were on flights, we were in airports or different times like that. So on a flight, he paskins not to daven in a minyan, and a flight and not to daven, and everyone should daven in his place, not to call and not to get into that. But we were in airports and places like that, And Reb Asher always told me, let's daven together. And I asked him why. So he says, because Boris Kani, he had one of his great grandfather was Maharam Banet, that says on the Gemara in Brochis, Daf Yud Ches, that there's a mila of two people, where the Gemara says, Hen kel kabelo imas tfilas rabim, and miut rabim is shtayim. So the Maharam Banet says that even though it's a big chiddush, it's always kedai to daven two or together than one together. So if you have the opportunity, always know to do that. If you have an opportunity to do that, and you're not causing any problems and not putting any patients in danger, you have another friend with you, so daven together, and then that would be a nice thing to have, and some schus you have with that. Now we'll go regarding Tkiyas Shofar. There is a mitzvah that we have this year. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan only on the second day. It's not Doicha Shabbos. So we have a mitzvah d'Rabbanan of Shofar. What should someone that is on a shift with, what should he do with the Shofar? And I'll explain. For example, here in Shareeh Zedek, it's less of a concern because from 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning is the end of the first shift of nurses, right? They end the night shift, finish at 7, and that's the new shift. So we have the first Tkiyas Shofar, meaning we have the nurses that go home. They go home. There is the vans that wait for them, the vans that are drove in by Nochrim are waiting for them downstairs, and they go to their vans. So before they go to the van, we have a Baal Tokeh that stands there and makes a bracha lishmoya, okay, and shechiyanu for them, and he's moitzi them, he din arvis, and he blows 30 tkiyas, and then they could go home and sleep. So that is a tkiyas shofar that they could be yoitzi yedei choiva. But what happens if we don't have that, and one has a shift and he knows that he'll have later on tkiyas shofar? So he has on his head a mitzvah of shofar. There is a halacha that one has a mitzvah in front of him to do. He is mechuyev to do the mitzvah, and he cannot eat a seuda until he performs the mitzvah. Shema Yishkach or something like that. That is the we know that is the concept that we do. So therefore, so we stop. The halacha is that we stop for Seuda, for Kriyas Shema, for Kriyas Megillah, Halil, Kriyas Shofar, Netilas Lulav. All of these things we do that because we're concerned that one is going to forget to be Mikayim the Shulchan. So the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tov Reish Nun Beis paskins regarding Netilas Lulav and that halacha, and the Magen Avraham says that is regarding all mitzvahs in the Torah, that achila is aser. Says the Magen Avraham, but te'ima, tasting something, is mutter. So therefore, if one wants to eat fruit or mezainis less than 50 grams, okay, so he could do that. And that's the Bate Ephraim says, also lecha koidem tkiyas shofar umisheli bo chalush. Says the Bate Ephraim, someone that is weak, ve'en da'ato miushevet litkoya, and he can't concentrate to blow the shofar and to daven until he has to taste something. So he should make kiddush ve'yochal kazayis leikach, right? He should eat the honey cake or something like that, in order that the kiddush should be bebokim suda, and after that he could drink a coffee or tea. But says the Mate Ephraim, but a person should do that betzina or not to be makel in that. Today, I don't know how many people are makpid this thing. Most people have kiddushim. There's shuls with kiddushim, yeshivas with kiddushim, and nice kiddushim they eat. Achshadara kanireh, that we are a shvachadar, that can't concept. But it's only you should know that there is such a halacha. And therefore, as soon as you can to hear, say again, of course, the main thing is to go to a shul and to hear Tkiyah Shofar, and that is 100 koilis for Ashkenazim, 101 for Edot HaMizrach. But what do you do if you are not able to be Yotzei Yedei Chayva and you're not going to be in shul? So then one should be should at least hear 30 koilis as soon as he can. Again, if one wants to really be makpid, he could eat before Alois HaShachar, even though according to Kabbalah, that's also not so good. But anyways, that is the thing. All that I said till now is regarding men. Women, they're not mechuyev in mitzvahs tkiyah shofar, even though kiblu alayu choiva. These are one of the mitzvahs that women are very makpid to do. But says the Magen Avram, even though they're makpid to do that, they did not accept upon themselves the chumrah of not eating, and they don't have to be makpid all of these things. Everything that I'm saying now is only a chumrah be'alma that I'm saying, and therefore that I'm saying regarding the men. But regarding women, for sure, they should be mekayim mitzvah of shofar if they can. If they can, they can. It's a mitzvah seishas ban grama. But regarding eating, for sure, a woman doesn't have to go out of her way not to eat, as I said before. And this is, by the way, the same also for women that are home, that are busy with their children. Now we're going to touch a very, very interesting topic, and that is prioritizing our shifts. We live in a modern world today that a person is able to choose and to write his calendar and to try to work out this calendar. And it's a whole melacha when you are in the medical field. It's a whole big thing to choose and to try to choose and to try to make your right choices. And you cannot say that every day I can't, every Shabbos I don't work. We don't have that privilege to do. So now I have to work out my September, October, right, calendar. I have Rosh Hashanah, I have Shabbos Rosh Hashanah, I have second day Rosh Hashanah, I have Shabbos Tshuva, I have a Sukkos, Yontif. I like to be at home. I want to be at home at least Yontif. Shabbos, maybe it's easier, maybe it's not. It's never easy, but again, is the right thing to do to choose that or not? Before I go into the question and all that's done, I want to speak about the concept of akal tchila. We know that there is a machlokes if Shabbos is hutra or dechuya. I'm not going into details. I just want to explain the concepts and understand, because it's important to understand in order to deal with this question. So hutra means that when I deal with a pikuach nefesh of Shabbos, it's Tuesday. I could do whatever I want. I don't have to think twice before that. Dechuya means that it's still Shabbos. Pikuach nefesh allows me to be mechal Shabbos, but the first nafkamina would be akal tchila, meaning whatever I could do less chilul Shabbos, I should try to do less chilul Shabbos. I'll give you an example. The Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara talks about Yom Kippur. Misha achzoi bulmus. You have a person or a pregnant woman, and today the craving of a pregnant woman is not only from the Gemara. In science, they also believe in the negativity that could happen to leave a pregnant woman with a craving and not treating it. So you have a woman that is craving food, and the food is non-kosher food. So the Gemara there is talking about even or not even a pregnant woman, a person on Yom Kippur. So the Gemara says, akal tchila, start with giving him to smell it. Doesn't work, give him just the sauce. and then the Gemara goes on with that. Another example the Gemara brings: what happens if you have a person that is that has a bulmus and he wants a fruit, and you have on one side you could give him tevel, one side you could give him a nevela. So Iser tevel is Iser deraisa, and nevela, so you give him nevela. Tevel and shvius. The Gemara talks about what happens if you have an Iser of tevel and you have a is that's a lav, and you have a shvius that it's a Iser asay, so you give him shvius. So you see the concept of akal tchila. Now, when we talk about a resident, someone that has long shifts, and he has to choose between the first day or second day Rosh Hashanah. We talk about this year that the first day is Shabbos, and on one side, Shabbos is a Isur Chomer. Why is it Isur Chomer? Because Chilul Shabbos is the punishment of somebody that is Chilul Shabbos bebeisid is Isur Skila. On the other side, you have Yontif. That is the second day Rosh Hashanah or Sukkot. So there, that's an Isur Lav and a Bitul Asay, and you don't have their Isur Skila. So in terms of the Chumrah of the Isurim, the Chura, it's less. Now, so that is one thing. The other, so on the other side, if I would say the concept of a kalakal tchila, I would say that it's better for you to choose to work. If you have to choose one of them, it's better for you to choose to work on Yontif than working on Shabbos, because Yontif, as we said now, is less. Now, okay, so that lechura one thing. The other end, if I work on Shabbos and I don't work on Rosh Hashanah, I'll be able to hear shofar. Is that also consideration or not? Now, I could say akalakal tchila. The question is akalakal tchila is where the pshat is like this. I have to do a melacha. Let's say on Shabbos, I'm in the middle of my shift. I have to do a certain melacha. Part of doing this melacha, I have a melacha deraisa, for example, of cutting a bandage, and I have a assistant near me that could help me, and he's a non-Jew. So I say, "Kala kal tchila," could be memayit in isurim. I'll tell him Amira lenachri. I tell him, "Please, can you cut this for me?" So that is a kala kal tchila. So it's in the same action, the same peula. I am using a kalakal tchila, and for sure that is something that we say. But when I tell you now choose your calendar, what's the connection between the first day Rosh Hashanah and the second day Rosh Hashanah? Even though this is Shabbos, this is Yontif, but what is exactly the connection in between that I'm saying I have to choose? Maybe it's not a question of a choice. There's no connection. There's a mitzvah to be work for pikuach nefesh, and I do that. These are the tzdadim that we want to think. The truth is, Ramosha finds in Chelek Vav or Chaim Shuva Ayin Tes, I think Ramosha writes there when we talk about the Ramosha talks there about the anaga for a doctor on Shabbos. And he says the following. It says the Reb Moshe that what's the nafkamina between hutra and tchuya? What's the nafkamina between hutra and tchuya? Says Reb Moshe. What's the big nafkamina between hutra and tchuya? The nafkamina between hutra and tchuya, says Reb Moshe, is that even though we paskin that it's tchuya, but when you have a pikuach nefesh in front of you, you have to do the pikuach nefesh. That's clear. So if I'm on the first day Rosh Hashanah, and now I'm in the hospital and there's a pikuach nefesh, I have to go. I'm on call and I get the call. I have to be available. I have to do that. So what's the real question? It says Reb Moshe there that the pshat is like this. The anaga of a doctor is that you should know that when we paskin the chuya, we paskin that there is an isur. It's not that there isn't an isur. There is an Isur that is nitche. You have to do the Isur. Pikuach Nefesh tells you to do the Isur. Not that there's nothing here. And even though that's a mitzvah, but the mitzvah tells you that there's an Isur. So therefore, whenever he says, if there's an Isur, so I don't have to be available. Ramesh uses the terms there. If by law I'm allowed to have 1 day vacation a week, right? 1 day off a week, so I'm allowed to have a day off. So why don't I do that? Shabbos should be my day. Again, that's only if it's possible. And therefore, says Ramesh, don't have your phone number available on that day. People should not know your number. But on the other side, people that know you will come and call you and ask you. Of course, you have to be available and answer them. But what he means to say is just understand the concept that it's dechuya, there is isurim, and therefore don't use that as a day because, pikuach nefesh, so I could choose any day I want. No, don't choose Shabbos to be the day. Meaning that Ramesh is coming to say that whatever you can avoid, you should avoid. But Ramesh says it's the same tshuva. But if something happened under your house, so one cannot say, I'm on vacation today. It's Shabbos. Chas v'sholem. One could not say that. Okay, so that is a tshuva, okay, that Ramesh writes. Simenayin Tes. So the following, so that is the Ramesh. So why am I bringing this Ramesh? Because Be'etzem, you see the Ramesh says that there is such a thing of choosing. A person could maybe choose or do something like that, of choosing times. If he has the opportunity of choosing it and he could avoid melachos, he should avoid melachos. But here, whatever you don't do, you have a problem here. There is a famous machlokes between the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi in Siman Tzadik, or Chaim Siman Tzadik, where they talk about someone that is in a Beis Asurim, someone that is captured in prison, and he has 1 day they give him to go daven in a minyan. So the question is, he gets permission to go daven in a minyan 1 time. Wherever you choose the day, says the Chacham Tzvi, you should wait either for Yom Kippur or Purim, whatever is going to be the first one, you should wait for that day. Okay, that's why Yom Kippur has the Maila of Yom Kippur, Purim has the Maila of Kriyas HaTorah B'Chiyas Amalek, and Kriyas Megillah. The Radvaz says, no, they give you 1 day, go out today, go out tomorrow, daven in a minyan. They gave you the opportunity to daven in a minyan. The first time that you have, go and take the opportunity and don't choose. And don't wait for having a better minyan, as if having a better minyan. The Sdei Chemed, on the same concept of the machlokes between the Chacham Tzvi and the Radvaz, the Sdei Chemed there talks about, and he says, what happens if a doctor tells a person, you can't have 2 fasts a week? You're too weak to have 2 fasts a week. Choose either you fast Tzom Gedalia or you choose Yom Kippur. The Chura, Yom Kippur, is a fast, right? A Doraisa fast, and Tzom Gedalia is only Divrei Kabbalah. So one would say, how could says this Sdei Chemed, the Chura, that's the machlokes. According to the Radvaz that says capture the first opportunity that you have, you should fast on Tzom Gedalia. You can, if I have the I'm oinus on Yom Kippur, I'm oinus on Yom Kippur. On the other side, if you don't have the other side, he says that what? According to the Chacham Tzvi, of course, Yom Kippur is the better opportunity. So they want to say that is that. It's a whole pilpul. I have an article on it. You could look at our website and see. Now, on the other side, I could say that what? one could say, if we follow this ruling, so one could say the first day Rosh Hashanah is Shabbos, right? The first day Rosh Hashanah is Shabbos, so be shomer the first Shabbos and not. But on the other hand, now when I'm choosing, nothing is in front of me, meaning the Pikuach Nefesh is not here yet, and I'm choosing the day that is the right day. So I'm not sure how much these halachic discussions are the right sources for that. And maybe we're back to the concept of akal tchila. Maybe yes, maybe not. So I spoke to Mori Rabbi today, Rav Asher Weiss, and he said the following, and I want to show you a slide just to try to explain according to the slide, okay? If you could just please put the slide to try to explain what he meant to say. He said the following. He said, after all, he said that you're right, and akal tchila brings us to do that and to choose to work on Yom Tov and not to work on Shabbos. But he said, definitely it's a legitimate thought and a legitimate request of a person that wants to hear shofar and not to lose the shofar. He definitely thinks that is a legitimate idea. So I asked Ramendel Jacobs to put it on to put it here on a slide. Just Adam saying, don't take this as chas v'sholom for real. What I'm trying to say here is I'm just trying to explain the svara a little bit better. And I'm just bringing this to explain it. It's not that this is halacha lemaisa, anything that is written here. Okay? Let's imagine to ourselves that a person is mechalel Shabbos without any reason. So, without a pikuach nefesh, so he is negative 100 points. If somebody is mechalel yontif, since yontif is more kal, so chas v'shalom, we'd say that he's negative 50 points. Okay? Now, once we have pikuach nefesh, and we paskin in the pikuach nefesh hutra and tchuya, so here we say like this, that on Shabbos, you're negative, if you're mechal Shabbos, if for pikuach nefesh, for tchuya, so you're negative only 10 points. And if you're mechal yontif, be'isur lav, by the chuya, you're only negative 5 points. Okay? That's okay. But when I have a pikuach nefesh in front of me, so my mitzvah is to be mechal Shabbos or mechal yontif. So you get 10 points for that. Is that a difference if I do that on Shabbos or I do that on yontif? There's no difference. You'll always get 10 points for that. So therefore, so this is this 10 points, the positive 10 points that you get. So again, if I do it on Shabbos, I have negative 10, but I have the positive 10 of what? Of the mitzvah pikuach nefesh, so it's 0. If I do it on yontif, I'm plus what? 5. So therefore, lechura, according to what we said till now, if I'm asking what should I choose to be mechalel, probably better you should be mechalel what? The yontif. Comes Rav Asher and says, yes, but imagine to yourself that hearing the shofar is 30 points. So with all of that and all of your nice cheshbonis, if you think you should take the yontif, because of the plus 5, that's not the right cheshbon, because you're losing the 30 points of hearing shofar. What I'm trying to say is, that's with the slide, you can take off the slide. I'm trying to explain here, basically, what I'm trying to explain is the following, that if we want to try to explain what is better than what, so you could make always cheshbonis, Shabbos is more chomer than Yom Tov. Yom Tov is more chomer than Shabbos. The question, if that is one near each other, that is my cheshbon, that's what I have to calculate, and that's what I have to do. Or, right, just to explain, do I have to, when I come to mitzvahs and averos, do I have to be an accountant and start making these cheshbonis, what I get more, what I get less, points or something like that? Is that the right point? So then I could come and tell you with points, yes, okay, we have to start drawing, right, these different charts. But if I come and I say, listen, this is a legitimate taina that I want to have the opportunity of once a year to participate in the mitzvah of shofar, says Rabbi Weiss, that is a legitimate taina that a person could have, and therefore he could do that. So therefore, his psak is that if one wants to choose even to take the shift of the first day, Rosh Hashanah, in order to have the second day for hearing shofar, even though it's only the Rabbanon, he's allowed to, because that brings him for tshuva, that brings him for the avodas hayom of Rosh Hashanah, and he's allowed to do that. Where does it get complicated? And I think that anyone that does anything, these are tshuvas that are between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this is a avodah of ben adam lamokai. And therefore, if a person knows that this is better for him or this is better for him, so he should do that. If a person chooses Yom Kippur, L'chura, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah has more mitzvahs than Yom Kippur that you need for a minyan, and you should, and so probably better to choose Yom Kippur, working on Yom Kippur and being free on Rosh Hashanah. On the other side, imagine to yourself, not to be in shul in Yom Kippur is also a very hard thing. So I think you have the legitimacy in terms of avodas Hashem that a person could choose these things. But again, if you're in a place that you could blow the shofar 30 tkiyas, so that's easier, right? If you know how to blow, you have somebody that knows how to blow the shofar, and you know that you're not going to lose the opportunity of blowing shofar. So again, you lose the cheshbon of what of shofar on Seder Atfilah. That's also a chashivas. But if second day is the Rabbanon, maybe you could do that. Saying, I don't have a clear psak in that. I think the clear psak is that everyone should think seriously what gives him more avodas Hashem and connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I just want to end with one thing. The avodah, you all that participated this year are people that are dedicating their life to help other people. In the days of Rosh Hashanah, of Yom Kippur, and especially Rosh Hashanah, if you know how to blow a shofar, if you know, think of the people that are in the hospital. If you live close to the hospital or you're there anyways and you know how to blow, think of them and try to see, I'm saying again, it's very, very careful. You have to be careful also not to cause ava and to do it in a smart way and in a normal way. But if you have a way to be mezakeh people with kiyas shofar, it's not less important than treating them medically and everything that you want. That's what I have to say for today. And Be'ez Hashem, next year, we're going to talk about things that have to do for medical professionals and Yom Kippur. And after that, we'll talk about patients and Yom Kippur.